Welcome back to the program. You're watching Newsnight this Tuesday. Now, it's a season of closed-door politics as COVID-19 restrictions confines politicians indoors. Social media photo opportunities have become the unlikely source of frenzied headlines, whether it's about reggae or blues, tanga-tanga or kieleweke, or even embrace or inua mama. A blanket ban now prevails over all forms of outdoor political activities. And so the chess game shifts back to where it ought to be, the table. But what is really going on behind those closed doors? That's what we want to find out at this time. We're speaking to insiders. ODM Chair John Mbadi is still here with us in studio, and the Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, and that's where we want to begin. We've been getting a lot of feedback, and we're preparing those messages. I'll be reading some of them shortly, but I don't want us to beat around the bush, gentlemen. The viewers have been waiting, and there is one question that keeps coming up, and that's where I want us to begin. And maybe I'll begin with you, Murkomen, once again. I want you to clear the air, because you are regarded as someone close enough to know what is happening in the Deputy President's camp. Is William Ruto considering an alliance with Raila Odinga?
If Raila Odinga would like to drop his political ambitions and support William Ruto, any politician who wants to be the president of Kenya would want support from anybody across the country. What I can almost confirm, even if I may not be at the center of that decision making, but I can tell you without fear of any contradiction that we have never had, and we are not planning to have at the moment, a conversation towards forming a political alliance with ODM. And here is the reason. We in the Hustler Nation, and who support William Ruto for president, believe that the only credible competitor we have in the country is Raila Odinga. And any person imagining that we were going to form an alliance with the only available competitor would actually be imagining that maybe Kenya wants to become a one-party state or a dictatorship. For me, it is far-fetched for anyone to try to imagine at the moment that you will have a situation where Raila Odinga and William Ruto will join hands together and we still have an election. That becomes a coronation. If we want, the Constitution says that Kenya is a multi-party democracy. And for that multi-party democracy to flourish in our country at the moment, at this point in time, there must be two forces that are competing for power. The forces that are around Raila Odinga and around William Ruto. And here is the reason.
Because it seems that there are no other forces
these are only
in your narrative.
Honestly, because these are the only two political formations that have some semblance of an ideological position in their competition.
Is it that simple, though?
Let me conclude. Let me just convince you. For us, we are coalescing around the Hustler conversation, which is about bottom-up approach in terms of building the economy. And we believe that we have, for many years, we've talked about trickle-down approach. We want to change the conversation to bottom-up. ODM has something they talk about, social democracy, and they have done that for more than 10 years. That conversation has been going on within ODM. Ours is going on. The reason why I'm telling you there is no other political formation, all the other supposed candidates, you hear them talking about, we want to be endorsed, all tribes must come to the table. Theirs is about tribal engagement, theirs is about tribal formation.
Talking about them.
But most importantly, they are like Green Party in the United States of America. If you bring William Ruto and Raila Odinga, it's like saying Democrats and Republicans. Two strong political formations in the country at the moment. I am not denying the fact that there would be other candidates like Mwalimu Dida, like Paul Muite, if he still wants to be a candidate, and many other candidates who would like to run for office, but they will be part of what is called, you know, like in US you have a Green Party movement and so forth.
Okay, hold it there.
That is my take, and that's why the only reason why you've seen the newspapers, and I don't know, maybe Mbadi is privy to any other conversation, but the only reason why these people in the newspapers are pushing so hard for this issue that Ruto and Raila have made, they're talking and so forth, is because the alternative they're putting on the table is a tribal arithmetic. They want to balkanize the country, to have various tribal chiefs. Raila Odinga and William Ruto have blocked the political space for that conversation. The only other way of making sure that that conversation of tribal chiefs takes place is to lump together Raila and Ruto, then say, these people who have ideological positions they are competing against, let's put them together so that then the rest of us become the alternative who are bringing tribalism on the table. That is the only reason.
I'll need to interrogate that further, but let me allow John Buddy to make his opening statement on this. Same question to you. You are the ODM chair here, the chair of that party. Is there a possibility, is Raila Odinga considering an alliance with William Ruto?
I want to put it very clearly and categorically that at the moment, ODM's focus is not on alliance building and coalition building. And we have said it severally, and I want to repeat it here. We are not in any discussion with anyone, leave alone William Ruto, on alliances. Our focus is still on BBI. We want to get it off the table, after which then now we will engage in other discussion around 2022 election. If, Mwaura, you study the politics of this country closely, you will realize that alliances are in this country from, say, 2002. That is when we saw real coming together to defeat a system or to defeat a candidate. The alliances are built around 3 months, 4 months to election. And I don't think this year will be an exception. But to say that there is anyone whom we are blocked out completely from discussing with, that in my view would be political naivety. You can't rule out anyone. There are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies in politics. It's all about interests. But what I can say with certainty and confirm what Murkomen has said is that we are not in any talks with William Ruto or anybody else regarding 2022 elections.
Murkomen is blaming the media, but let me tell you this, the media pretty much just carries what politicians say and analyzes it. And I'll give you two statements that were made. Raila Odinga's elder brother, Buru Oginga, a couple of weeks ago said the ODM leader may work with the deputy president in the 2022 elections. He said they may have differed politically, but nothing stops them from working together. And then the deputy president comes on an interview on Radio Citizen here at, within the Raw Media family and said he's ready and willing to work with all like-minded politicians who share his dream for the country. And when he was asked about the possibility of working with Raila, he did not deny it. It's not the media saying it. Gentlemen, it's
but you see,
strong players from both your sides.
I have no quarrel with what the two gentlemen said. And if you ask me, there is nothing really strange or which they said that can be treated as unique. That is exactly what we are saying here. And that is exactly what I've said. That you cannot rule alliance with anyone. You don't know what tomorrow holds for you. So you can't say, what if one decides to support you?
Correct.
Will you run away from that support because you said you cannot work in an arrangement with Mwaura? What I am saying, and probably what Murkomen meant when he's talked about the media, is when now you try to analyze and to add your own facts to it. Like in the recent weeks, these few days leading, I think about 3 or so weeks, you have treated us to some strange arrangements which some of us who are insiders in this political equation have been asking whether we are dreaming or it is reality.
What's the strange arrangement for those who may not be privy?
Some kind of arrangement where, really, let me put it this way. You have been putting light, there is discussion between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. And I can tell you, there is none. I would tell you that the discussion that I know has happened between Raila Odinga and William Ruto is when he made a telephone call to Raila Odinga to ask him about his health condition. And that is the information I have from my party leader. But you see, the media, in fact, my party leader told us that sometimes he reads newspapers and he wonders whether these people are talking about him or another Raila Odinga. So I would just want to caution that at times don't quote every Dick and Harry in the street. If you want to know the official position of the party, especially ODM, I'm speaking for ODM, and Murkomen will agree with me that in this country, at least the party that presently has some form of a national image is ODM. If you want to get to understand ODM, then you know who to speak to. But finally, there's something where I want to disagree a bit with Murkomen. Murkomen, you cannot rule out alliances. Because we know if we have to be realistic, alliances in this country is the reality, unless you want to live in an academic world. And really, the Hustler Nation, in my view, is a mirage. Let's just face it. You know, the hype that was put around this Hustler Nation before the by-elections we had. And I thank God the ambition of UDA forced them into fielding candidates across the country.
Correct.
And the results demonstrated to them that this so-called hustler narrative is in their minds and has not really resonated with the Kenyan public. And I'm happy that you used as a symbol the hustler narrative symbol, that is the wheelbarrow. And look at Metungu, where you got 11% or 12% of the votes. Look at Kabuchai, where you got about 16, 17%. Look at Kisii. In fact, in Kisii, the Kemakoma ward in Kisii, they took our candidate, the one we wanted to field as ODM. And they ended up making him number 5. And we got, what I would say, a reserve candidate and made it number 1. And you managed, Murkomen, to win London ward, and you know the demographics there. So what I want to say, I am saying UDA is coming out strongly, but you need alliances. As ODM, we are alive to that fact, but we are deferring that to later after BBI.
Okay, I want him to respond. I have another question for you, but let him respond.
I think if you understand me right, I didn't say we cannot have alliances with other politicians. I'm just being realistic that it's not possible to have a situation where you have an alliance for purpose of political power shared by William Ruto and Raila Odinga and still have a political competition in the country. That is my honest opinion, that at the moment these are two opposite political players that possibly them on their own can form alliances around themselves and become, competing against themselves. I didn't say that the Hustler movement will not have alliances and Raila Odinga will not have alliances. In reality, if you want to do 50+1%, it behooves you to engage as many people as possible. But also, let's not forget that Jubilee got 50+1 as a party, as a one political party, and got 50+1 of the votes in the country. So it's possible, it is outrightly possible, I mean, if I must answer my friend here, for the Hustler Nation to win an election with the Hustler Nation itself being an alliance. Already inside the Hustler Nation team, having brought together players and parties that come from different formations and regions in terms of persuasions, in terms of civil society, and many other players, trade unions and so forth. So it's possible still for Hustler Nation to win elections as one formation, but which is bringing together different alliances inside that one formation, just as it was with Jubilee. I also want to insist this, that there is no problem with one of them, William Ruto forfeiting his political ambitions for Raila, or Raila forfeiting his political ambitions for Ruto. But let's all remember that if one was to be under our current constitution as it is, if one has to be president, another to be deputy, there's only one person who can be the deputy. It's Raila Odinga. Because constitutionally, William Ruto cannot be deputy of anybody. So even when you go to a negotiating table with William Ruto, you know from the beginning that he cannot accept a deputy president position because constitutionally has been barred from being a deputy president. And I don't see, and I want to insist here, we are comfortable as Hustler Nation because we believe in a democratic and competitive elections. We are comfortable with Raila Odinga being our competitor. And then we form other political alliances with many other people. He forms political alliance with other people. Let's have a competition around these two ideologies. Whoever wins will be decided by the people of Kenya. That's my position.
That's your view. I want us to move on from this, but before that, let me ask you this. As a political class, the discussion around alliances has been on since 2002. Keep changing the alliances in this quest for power. What is the purpose of alliances beyond winning elections? Are those alliances ever built on anything else beyond that, Honorable Mbadi?
No. Alliances that we build in this country, to be honest, is realism. We are just being realistic. That as a country, we are so divided regionally, ethnically, and other things. And it is not really possible or easy to win political power in this country without getting together with other Kenyans across the country. And I wanted just to answer Murkomen that it is true, yes, Jubilee one, because you know, as ODM and NASA, we contested the election and we didn't participate in the repeat. But assuming Jubilee won the elections, it was not just a political party. In fact, Jubilee was where NAC was in 2002. NAC was actually a coalition of parties. It was a coalition of NAK and LDP and others and other affiliates. But now Jubilee again also realistically was actually a coalition which formed into a party before election. Remember, there was the TNA and the URP and other political parties that came together under Jubilee. So realistically, and I want to say without any contradiction, that as a country we need these coalition buildings and alliances is here with us. And it is something that it will be with us. And the reason why these alliances don't go further than election, we thought, because we were outside government, if you don't form government, chances of a pre-election alliance subsisting or continuing after election are very remote, because alliances before election are formed to win election. If you don't, then you start thinking about the next general election. That's why you see our partners in NASA, I don't even understand them, because they should understand that the alliance we formed before election was for election. Once election is concluded, any right-thinking person should know that alliance may not obtain if you don't form government. Now, for those who are in government, we thought the alliance could proceed to the end. But again, you see what we have today, where that alliance or Jubilee as a party may not exist in its form that it existed in 2017 going to 2022. So how then do we improve on this alliance building so that it captures the agenda of the country? I think that is where we need to move to. Much as we appreciate that alliances are crafted because of these factors of ethnicity, regional parties, etc. We need now to move it a step further. That once you form alliances, so you need to negotiate and discuss what you believe in.
Okay.
And then going forward, it remains steady and stable. But that is not going to happen only if we start building these parties and these alliances around some agenda and around some objective.
Kipchumba Murkomen, and we're going to be talking about the status of BBI shortly. Depending on how things go, how would a yes for BBI or a no for BBI affect all these discussions and possible alliances that we are hearing? Could it make it easier, for example, for the kind of partnership that you spoke of? Because right now, if it passes, it wouldn't just be about the president and the deputy. There would be possibly other seats on the table.
First, let me start by acknowledging what Mbadi said, and he's right. Anyone thinking about proper political coalition at the moment is overambitious. I participated in the 2013 coalition making process. Even up to November 2012, we were still talking with, URP was still talking with ODM. TNA talked with ODM. In fact, Uhuru had met with Raila. We had met with Raila. We had met with Uhuru. Kalonzo, even by the time he's joining to support Raila Odinga, was a last-minute decision. Yeah. So, and that was November, December. By the time we were signing the agreement with Mudavadi, that was rescinded. Early December, and a few days later, it was rescinded. Yeah. It was that confusion of last-minute putting together political, because all these people you hear about them saying we'll run for president, we are going to form government and so forth. Around March next year, the reality dawns on them, and that it becomes useless for you to continue running for presidency when you can only get 13% or 10% or 5% or 2%. Then you join the alliance that you believe two things. One, that they will win, but two, that ideologically you are closely linked to achieving your objective. The thing that as a country we must do then is to interrogate the manifesto that is being put forward by the political alliances candidate and also the alliance as a team, so that then by the time we are voting, we cannot say for sure that alliances have been formed for purpose of power, but we achieved nothing. We achieved a lot in Kibaki's regime. We achieved a lot in coalition government after 2008. We have achieved a lot in Jubilee administration, and it was based on alliances. We have made mistakes. We've made mistakes in all of them. We've made mistakes in all of them, but we are a work in progress. So the question we should be asking ourselves is, in the next alliance, what should Kenyans go for? What are the indicators that will guide the country to know that this is what we are going to achieve and this is where we are going to push for accountability? Now, you're talking about BBI proposals. The BBI proposals, to me, will not help per se in terms of the elections itself. It may be more useful as a post-election document. And let me tell you why. Because still the only two positions that are taken to elections are the president and the running mate. You know, the prime minister position would definitely depend on many other factors. If Mbadi is the prime minister designate, he would first have to win an election in his constituency back home. Yeah, and his party must win the larger majority of political. The factors that determine you being promised that you will be prime minister or deputy prime minister, there are too many factors that are going to determine. You can promise, but there is no guarantee. Number two, the big wigs that are involved in these negotiations, very few would accept at this point in time that they are going to retreat to some constituency they left like 10 years ago for purpose of, you know, coming in as a prime minister. Yeah, most of them would like to go for the presidency or the running mate, because those are assured in the agreement itself. For me, I will be frank and honest, except that there will be other players below the level of the current presidential candidates who perhaps will be interested in these positions and be willing to accept these positions and take the risk of going to a constituency. Even next political alliance will still surround first the presidential candidate and his running mate, because those are assured positions that are voted by the people of Kenya.
Okay, that's very interesting analysis. I don't know what John Buddy thinks, but even as you reflect on that, John Buddy, tell us a little bit about where we are with the referendum, the BBI rather. The public is at loss on the timelines. Talk of a referendum by June. We're getting closer and closer to June, and some of our viewers are asking tonight, it doesn't look like a BBI referendum by June is possible.
For me, I think the biggest challenge hurdle for BBI is the judicial system or the judiciary, the cases that are in court. If those cases would be disposed of and dispensed with quickly enough, I don't think there is anything that would have stopped a referendum from being conducted or held in June. Where we are with the draft bill it's in Parliament, and Parliament, we were actually thinking of having the bill disposed by next week. Mm-hmm. We actually discussed with my colleague, the majority leader in the National Assembly. I don't know the plans in the Senate, but I think we shared a few days ago with James Orengo that we would have special sittings for the same on Wednesday and Thursday. We were waiting for the committees to conclude their reports. They were talking on Monday. We hope they will and present the report to Parliament. So once Parliament is when Parliament concludes the debate and passes the bill, it would go to the President, and the President would forward it to IEBC because it has issues. I know there are people who are questioning whether we are not supposed to isolate some of the aspects of the bill which don't require a referendum, but I think my understanding is that this is one bill. So once it goes to IEBC, then they plan for a referendum date. Why should it be a problem? Now, but where we are, the problem is the court cases
where the president can't,
and you can't predict what the outcome of the cases in court. The only message I would want to send to the judiciary is they are also Kenyans. They should know that there's anxiety around this whole question of referendum and BBI. They need to make a determination. The cases, I know I'm not a lawyer, and so probably there are technicalities and here and there, but it needs, if we can conclude a presidential petition within a set period of time and many other matters, why can't we also deal with this matter quickly so that Kenyans know whether they are going to have a referendum or not? That is where the problem is. The problem is not in Parliament. The problem is not with conducting a referendum. The problem is with the court cases.
The problem isn't also the pandemic. Many say we are still not sure when we'll be able to...
I don't think so. I totally disagree. Why would the pandemic...
No, as we speak right now, public gatherings are banned. That's why we haven't seen you two gentlemen out and about.
Why must people go to public gatherings? Biden campaigned in the US without having any public gathering. It is Trump who misbehaved and he lost. So, I mean, there is nothing that would stop Kenyans from engaging without public gathering.
What I meant more specifically was a countrywide voting exercise with the numbers that we are looking at. You see that possible?
Kenyans line up everywhere and every day going to boarding matatus. I mean, what is the big deal of putting social distance and voting? Just the other day, there was a voting that took place in the entire Machakos County. Wasn't that a voting? And was it not?
But the positivity rate then is not what
Kenyans will always get an excuse for anything, Moega, and I don't want you to join that team of conspirators.
No, I'm asking on behalf of Kenya.
I just want to advise you to
that is my role.
Join this team of conspirators who think that we can not hold a referendum at this time.
Okay, I want to read feedback, but Murkomen looks like he has to say something.
The BBI, for me, the BBI, because you didn't ask me about the BBI, I don't know why.
No, I was coming back to you after the tweet. Go ahead.
No, the point is this, that for us, we believe that BBI is not priority. Changing the constitution is not priority. But we do not have the luxury of avoiding the conversation once it is part and parcel of the constitutional process, because then we are forced to participate. And since we have been forced to participate, then in Parliament we are expecting that the committee will come with a robust report that identifies the various contentious issues that are still in that document. The conversation at the moment is which Supreme Court really failed us from addressing that issue as to whether the County Assembly should have passed the bill as it is, or they had the liberty to amend, or Parliament whether they should amend or not amend. And our conversation at the moment is that we don't think that Parliament was just a rubber stamp. There is an opportunity for us to improve on the bill, because it comes as a draft bill. Then in Parliament, it becomes a bill, and Parliament must work on the bill, because there are various issues that at the moment, reading that document, they do not even, they don't relate together. For example, let me give you an example. You've increased to 70 constituencies that have been protected by the Constitution and identified that they are going to go to certain counties. Then you leave the other 290 constituencies that were existing to be subjected to Article 88 of the Constitution in terms of constituency reviews. You know, that's a contradiction by itself, internal contradiction in an amendment that once it is in place, it becomes difficult to implement the Constitution. You create contradictions. There are issues about whether the power of the IEBC to continue reviewing boundaries of constituencies will still be there when you have already identified that these constituencies are going here and there. We will be making our contribution on the floor of Parliament. We will ask our colleagues that we have a roundtable of consensus building to achieve a workable document that we now can present to the country. What do you mean by
a workable document? Do you mean we see the possibility of amendment?
We see the possibility of amendment. We see the possibility of improving that document.
Of the BBI bill?
Exactly. There is nothing in the Constitution that bars in Parliament from improving the document itself when it comes to Parliament, because it only comes as a draft bill. Number two, I want to agree with Honorable Mbadi that the judiciary have a very important role to play in terms of the procedure at the moment. Already judiciary has pronounced itself that the Tana River County Assembly violated the Constitution when they were approving the bill. And I will not be surprised that the same fate that applied to Tana River applies to also many of the county assemblies. There are very salient questions that are being canvassed by the litigants in court. I am not part of the litigants in that court. Just you know, from reading what was decided by the judges, by actually judges saying that Parliament can do whatever they want to do, but should not transmit that document to the President. I believe that the judges who have been chosen are men and women of integrity and will render a decision that is for posterity. I believe that the judiciary must act independently without being coerced or being pushed. They must take the necessary time, understanding, of course, that time is of the essence, but come up with a decision that is not going to be for purpose of political expediency, for purpose of what I can say legacy, their own legacy, about the good of the country, about the future of the nation, because we don't want a situation where in future, and I really feel very sad that I don't want a situation where every second term of the President will do a similar thing and perpetuate a particular amendment of the Constitution and become executive-heavy amendment of the Constitution for purpose of the benefit of politicians. I think the precedent that is being established will be very dangerous for the country in future.
Okay, let's take a look at that feedback now. I promise I'd get some views of those who are watching tonight because they have many questions for you, gents. Let's put a few up. Engineer Lazaro says, still too early to predict which, he's calling it collusion. Coalition, I think is what you meant, the engineer, would weather the storm to 2022 election. What has been going on is just testing the waters and lobbying. Gentlemen, is that what's going on? You'll tell us. Levi Nyabuto says, Wahiga Mora, have you realized Raila Odinga has refused to upload photos of that meeting? No. Okay, I haven't. Ask John Buddy why. Okay, I haven't checked on that. I don't know if it's true. We'll confirm, but I don't know if John Buddy has anything to say on that. Frederick Okango says, in my view, a united Kenya is inevitable. It is certainly more likely than a voluntary coalition. We shall be seeing more of strange bedfellows coming together as we approach 2022. Okay? Let's see what else we have here. Enoch Kilile, you say the recent Ruto Oparanya meeting and a subsequent today's Raila Muhoho Gideon one has something cooking between Uhuru, Ruto and Raila. The triple could be warming up for a coalition ahead of the 2022 elections. Okay, okay, let's see. Bramwell Wabwir says, both guests are in different camps even as per now. If Raila and the Deputy President agree to work together, are they ready to be in one camp? That's a question to both of you. Tumbadi, they are asking, we have 48 days to June. Will BBI implementation still go through with less IEBC commissioners? I think you've kind of spoken a bit to that. Let's see what else we have here. F0 says, I challenge the two leaders today, Wahiga. Having a conversation about them down here is quite depressing politically and economically. Can they both pledge that no matter what happens, they will leave a prosperous and united country? All right, maybe let's take one more in the interest of time. Those may be too many. Karugu Nicholas, please ask John Buddy about the rumor going around about the Secretary General's position in ODM. Could there be a change there? Okay, do we start with those for now? I know there are more, but we might not be able to take all of them tonight. John Buddy, I think let's start with you. Maybe you start with that one right there. Is there any attempt to change the Secretary General?
It's called it a rumor, and ODM is not run on rumors.
Okay.
We have structured meetings. We have processes and procedures of changing leadership of parties, our party. And by the way, we are likely to have a National Delegates Conference convention this year. And during that time, all seats will be vacant for anyone to contest, including mine. So anyone who wants to remove any other office bearer, they are at liberty to do that. But about whether there is any plans to remove SG, I'm strange to that.
Okay. How far are you with the vetting of the 2 or is it 3 candidates who submitted their CVs for the post of presidential candidate of ODM?
I want to explain this matter very clearly.
It has raised a lot of confusion. It should be
understood that National Elections Board is an independent organ of our party. That body does its work independently, and we don't give them direction. They only seek for guidance from NEC because it's constituted by NEC. It's a product of NEC. But they will report to us officially. On the issue of timelines, I want to repeat here very clearly that that is administrative. There is nowhere in our constitution where it is stated that the presidential candidate or those who are willing or hoping to run on our ticket have this number of days to. That was a timeline put for convenience of the board, and it can be changed by NEC anytime. Whether they are doing the vetting, that is the work of the board. They will report to us. They have not reported right now. If I respond to that, I would be usurping the powers of the Catherine Muma Commission. I respect that, board. I respect the board. I am the chair of NEC, but I don't chair NEP.
Okay, so it's possible to reopen the request for application for those
That is very possible.
They have the powers to do so, is what you're saying.
I would even say that was just for their convenience. They can open it up. They can ask NEC to give them more time. If anything, we have not even set the date for National Delegates Conference, where the presidential candidate is supposed to be elected. We will give time for, if we have more than one candidate, for them to canvass for votes. We will even have to be sure of the list of delegates, because you know some of the delegates who were elected in 2015 have left the party, some have died. So we need to be sure on how many delegates are still alive. Those who are not alive, how do we fill those positions? There are a lot of issues still around that whole topic.
Sounds like it's still premature, early days
to talk about even who have applied and who have not applied.
Okay, there's one tweet here before I allow Murkomen to also respond to some of the feedback. Eno Kilile is saying, it is what it is. The two legislators may hide it, but their official language in addressing each other stands out. For once, they have forgotten about name calling. The current political sobriety is worth noting. Kipchumba Murkomen, do you want to respond to some of that?
First, I agree with the Kenyans who are saying that we should think about the economy. We should think about the welfare of Kenyans, not I mean, despite our political competition. And maybe what we should be talking with Mbadi and what Ruto and Raila should be sitting together to talk about is about assuring Kenyans that no matter who wins, the one who loses must be able to concede defeat and must be willing to support the one who has won and prepare for competition another day, because we don't want a continuous fights and squabbles after elections. And I think that is really what Kenyans want. The assurance that Kenyans want is that we will have an election which the voting will be today, and tomorrow Kenyans will go normally to their work. That cannot be assured through tribal alliance. It can only be assured by having parties that are strong, or even if it is political alliances that are strong and based on ideas and programs that assure Kenyans that no matter which political formation win, their welfare will still be secured. I have seen also the comments about Oparanya meeting the DP and where that means. Oparanya has been meeting the DP as many times. I have been in some of the meetings, and I think it's more than 8 times or so.
8 times or so in the last what?
In the last like 3 years. And Waiga, if I was to be frank here, there are so many meetings that are taking place that are not in camera. There are many Nicodemus that visit the DP at night. Yeah, some are governors, some are CSS, some are PSS. Everybody is preparing themselves for the next election. I would even suppose they are meeting Raila Odinga on the sides. So these meetings are taking place. It has nothing to do with one going on behalf of the other. Everybody is trying to find a footing politically in preparing themselves for future. So the best person to answer you as to why they would want to meet this are those people themselves. But in confidence, I cannot mention people's names, but if I was to tell you, you would even be surprised, the kind of people who meet. People are meeting.
At least Mbadi has not met.
Yeah.
Mbadi is the only one. You know what?
No, you see, there's
a soundbite, Murkomen, based off what you've said.
Yeah.
Gachagua spoke to, Honorable Gachagua spoke to our Samu Gina yesterday on this. Can we play the one where he was speaking about these meetings that are going on? We truly are in a interesting political season. Let's just play that soundbite and get a quick reaction of Oparanya when he was speaking about the meetings that Honorable Oparanya has been having. We tried to ask Oparanya to come to studio today. We were not quite able to get with him to get his side of the story. But this is what Honorable Gachagua had to say about the meetings and the speculation.
So weekly, Oparanya has been talking to us, and I think he has reached a place he's okay now to come out in the open. The meeting at the Mara was at his request. For it to be made public was at his request and concurrence. The 4 previous meetings were held in private, and he didn't want them broadcasted. But for now, I think him and his people have made a decision. In fact, we have agreed, in the last meeting, they agreed with the Deputy President and his team that the next meeting he should come with his people, leaders from Western, and the Deputy President will have a team from his end, from across the country, so that we can continue further engagement.
Gentlemen, we need to wrap this up. We're almost out of time, but Murkomen, it sounds like meetings upon meetings.
That's why I'm telling you. Even what Gachagua is saying that he's supposed to come for a meeting, you know, those are some of the things that I told you they are happening behind the scenes. And you don't be surprised when so-and-so is meeting the Deputy President or so-and-so is meeting Raila Odinga. As I told you, I am being realistic. If I become wrong and things change, as I told you earlier, and Badi has also confirmed, the final political alliance is 2-3 months before elections. But as we speak at the moment, the two political formations that people are talking to is Raila Odinga or William Ruto team. And I think people are at liberty to try to test what role they are going to play in these different...
There are viewers telling you tonight, don't downplay the One Kenya Alliance or any other groupings. There are some SMSs of that nature.
But, you know, I don't know. Maybe Badi knows them because they were in NASA. But I can tell you for sure that in the Senate, they only have about 6 elected leaders. Okay, out of the 47 elected senators, they have 6. In the National Assembly, I think they have about 15 or so combined, or maybe 20 or 20-something out of 400 349 elected members of National Assembly. I would be wasting public space and time and energy to discuss them at the expense of the real people that we should be competing with. In fact, as an ASLA team, we have never sat down and said, how will we compete with those people? I don't even need to mention their names, this or that, because it is not in our province to engage them. What I know, and Badi, though we are friends, I can tell you for sure, we are preparing ourselves to make sure that you don't enter into State House, and that the Hasla movement provide the next leadership, because we know the most credible competitor we have is in ODM.
So what happens if Raila Odinga is not on the ballot box for one reason?
If he's not on the ballot box, then we will say hallelujah, we have got a breakthrough and a easy route to State House.
No, but
somebody need to respond to that. Go ahead.
No, not really. First of all, I want to put it very clearly that yes, as it is today, there is no alliance discussion where ODM is involved. So that should go out clearly. Whether there is any ODM official who has met anybody else, that must be at a private level. And I want to leave it at that. Whether they have been meeting many times and coming with people from his people from Western or whatever, that is for Gachagua to say and probably Oparanya himself to respond to. Now, let me get back to this question of One Kenya Alliance. Looking at it as it is, I know politics is dynamic and you can't predict tomorrow with certainty. But really, honestly speaking, if that alliance stands on its own as it is, or as I've seen it, without the input of any other person, I don't think it can get to State.
What do you mean by input of any other person? This is an alliance that's coming fresh off by-election victory, so...
which by-election victory? You know, this is how sometimes I find you in the media misleading people. You know, let me tell you, that is the confusion you made, you caused in the Hustler movement. You know, when Msambweni election outcome came out, you made it a big thing, like, and that was an independent candidate. Of course, UDA camouflaged behind that candidate. And you made it like it was a win for Hustler Nation. That made them become too ambitious, and they decided to contest across the country when they were still not even ready. And you saw the outcome. Look at what happened in these by-elections. Musalia Mudavadi's ANC winning Matungu by-election, if at all, because as ODM we feel there were a lot of issues around that election. But let us assume that we are not bad losers, that they won fairly and squarely. At 14,000, yet in the last election, their candidate had 18,000 votes. Were, who was our candidate, was Jubilee's candidate in 2017 and got 8,000. This time he got close to 12,000. The difference was just about 3,000. In your stronghold, and a place where you spend almost the entire campaign period as a party leader, and then Wetangula winning in Bungoma after a lot of support from everybody else, his own constituency. Actually, you know, that was his constituency.
Yeah.
And then winning in, I mean, really, if you want to know the strength of a party, test your strength outside what is perceived as your stronghold.
Okay.
Go to the coast. Like we went to Msambweni, we lost. We went to Kilifi, we won. There was a by-election there. We went to Kisii, we won. So we win elections, we lose elections. But you cannot win election in your village and then you claim to be so strong in the whole country. By the way, some of these political parties are village political parties.
Okay, hold on.
They cannot go beyond.
Now you are treading on toes. Some of
No, but
it is a fact.
Okay,
it's a fact.
And I'll give you a chance to respond. I need to take that break.
Waiga, can you even name some of the party officials of this? Can you name even 4 party officials?
That's not my job here today. I'm here today to ask you questions.
You cannot. So you see, those to me are village political parties. If you come to ODM, you can mention even 10 officials of ODM. They are known.
Let's take that break now. Those are the views of John Mbadi, the ODM chair, on Newsnight. We take a break. We come back. I have just 2 more questions for them, and then we're going to wrap this up. And I'm seeing your feedback as well, so might get 1 or 2 in as well. The state of politics behind closed doors, but clearly a lot is happening. Sometimes you don't believe the pictures you see, and they say that there may be others that aren't even taken. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching Newsnight as we wrap up this conversation. This is what some Kenyans are saying online. Ketrick says, very interesting interview. How the friendly nature of your guest tonight shows there's a lot more. Never watched such a sober discussion in a while. Alindi Hezi Wodsara says, what a nice and mature conversation between the 2 learned gentlemen. This is the Kenya we want. Okay, I don't know what they are seeing. Ole Joe says, today's agreement between the 2 is on another level. It's like they're reading from the same script. But they say it's the media that's painting the narrative of alliances. We're going to get away from that particular matter. But gentlemen, 1 or 2 SMSs and tweets as complaints. This one here, let me just pull that out. Let me see. Just hang on 1 second. Remind Honorable Mbadi and Murkomen that Wiper is a national party with MPs across the country. In light of these uncontestable facts, it is clear that Wiper is not a village party. I think it's a Wiper official messaging me on this. And One Kenya is an idea whose time has come. So they disagree with your sentiments that you cannot just wish that away. But I want you to respond to a question from a Kenyan as we wrap this up. Gidhua Wakoine from Bahati, Nairobi says, where are we heading to as Kenyans? We are in a lockdown. The economy is under strain. Common Wanjiko is struggling. I could give that to you both as your parting shot. We're in a lockdown. 2-3 weeks ago, the president stood before the country. 5 counties, including the one we are in, put under lockdown. Was that the right move? And what is the solution for the suffering of Kenyans as we wrap up this conversation? I'll give you both a minute to give us your thoughts on this.
Just in a 1 sentence to say that even the person who is saying Wiper is a national party, he's dishonest to himself, because Wiper has only 3 senators in Machakos, elected in Machakos, Kitui and Makueni. How is that national? KANU has only 2 senators from West Pokot and Baringo. It has only MPs in Samburu, Garissa, and 1 in Baringo.
I think we get
1 in Baringo. No, let's be honest.
They're not here, so I don't want to back and forth.
No, but because we are discussing national party formations, that's why I told you this thing of Oko or something or all that, whatever they're talking about, that alliance is not worth our time. It's not worth our time. In Senate, Wetangula is there alone. He's the only senator there. He doesn't even have a nominated one.
That is your opinion.
It's not opinion. It's a fact.
That is not worth the statement you...
But I'm telling you...
That's not worth
but I'm telling you, is it not a fact that Fort Kenya has 1 senator? Is that contestable?
Yes.
It's not contestable. It's 1. It's 1 person. You know? So in fact, ODM was so generous a party. When they met Wetangula, minority leader, I was shocked. Because one, not even a nominated.
Again, you've made your point.
And by virtue of that oneness and pretending to be in an alliance, it becomes a principle. So let's be honest as Kenyans. If these gentlemen who are in those political parties, want ANC has 2 senators, one is Kaniri, who is an ODM. I want Kenyans to understand.
I want you to answer the next question.
If any of these people want to call themselves something to do with Kenya, let them join Raila Odinga or William Ruto in a formation that we already know it's national in character. Even when we were, and that's a fact, even in 2013, when URP had 76 MPs, TNA had 80-something, all these other parties, ODM had about 80-something alone. So all these other party formations were just parasites around Raila Odinga. and they must be told as much. And if they want to become national in character, they must join political formations that are national in character. In terms of the question of the pandemic and
the suffering of
Kenyans, it is a reality. And this is something we'll have to deal with. In fact, I disagree with Mbadi, who was earlier saying that, politics must go on, referendum must go on. For me, another 14 billion for referendum is insensitivity. It's being insensitive to the plight of many Kenyans who are suffering at the moment, to the businesses that have been closed, to the hospitals that are stressed because we do not have even enough space for ICU and so forth. What we should do, what we should be closing ranks on, is basically go back again to those measures that were put in place by the state in relation to taxation, in relation to salvaging businesses that have collapsed, in creating programs. You see President of the United States, Biden, is trying to invest heavily on infrastructure projects, and his intention is to borrow from Roosevelt after the Great Depression, that, you invest in these projects, but your intention is to create employment in the meantime. If the housing project of Jubilee was to take place, then we would employ so many plumbers, so many other Kenyans to do these constructions and so forth and get jobs so that they can be able to fend both for themselves and their families for the time being. We must, all of us, think beyond our political formations on how best we are going to respond to the question of the pandemic and salvage a lot of Kenyans who are suffering. We mean even to talk about these restaurants that have been closed. You saw the gentleman who was crying on TV, saying that he's borrowed a lot of money, the restaurant has been closed. All those businesses that have been closed, all these Kenyans that are unable to survive in this point in time, we must look for cash transfers and measures, taxation measures, that will help them uplift their business, including loans that are interest-free to assist them. And we don't need BBI to do that. It just needs government policy to be put in place to do exactly the same. In my opinion, we should be shelving our discussion about referendum, political powers, political offices, and channel as much resources as possible in salvaging the Kenyans.
Let me get a response from that. John, but you have the final word because we're out of time.
My final word is, I think even before the pandemic, our economy was already depressed enough. In fact, we were in a very stressed economy because of the debts. Remember, I know Murkomen will say that this is historical now, but the truth is, by the time Jubilee was taking over government in 2013, we were at a debt level of 1.8 trillion. So from independence, we had just accumulated 1.8 trillion. Right now, it's well upwards of 7.2 trillion. So that really depressed our economy. So within these 8 years or so, we have borrowed 5.4 or so billion shillings. Now, that was the beginning of the problem we have today. But the pandemic is here with us. We need to deal with it. And I support some of the suggestions that Murkomen has put on the table, including giving support to SMEs and helping those who have lost their income. But I would tell you, our economy, as it is today, our revenue collection is so depressed that I don't even think we have enough space to really give good support with our internally generated revenue to our businessmen and women. Now, tomorrow we have a discussion with the CS Treasury as Budget and Appropriations Committee from 10 a.m. We'll be discussing about this loan that is being offered by IMF, the 234 billion loan. This loan may be attractive because really, first, it is an interest-free loan or a zero interest rate loan with very generous period of repayment and grace period. But we must agree on where this money is going to be channeled. Is it going to be targeted at enhancing productivity in the country? Because we really need to get back the economy on track.
I would say, stand in the way of that meeting. That meeting is still set. We had talk of it being cancelled.
It hasn't. I have not received any message cancelling it. Okay. If it will be cancelled, maybe it will be planned for another day. But the message that I have, because I'm a member of that committee,
yes, you are,
is that there is a meeting tomorrow at 10. I've not got a message cancelling it. But what I'm saying is, I think we need to have a robust discussion about our economy. remember also, we rely heavily on oil prices, and oil prices are shooting up. We also, because of our problems with raising revenue, have enhanced VAT on oil prices or fuel prices, and on fuel, and which has added on to our inflation and all that. I just hope that this news that you read here is not true, that that we are going to have maize shortage. And so if we combine maize shortage again with the scarcity of food, with fuel, it's going to really be difficult for Kenyans. As leaders, I know we have been bashed a number of times, and a lot of times we have been bashed for rightfully so. We need to really work towards shaping the thinking of the executive towards now thinking about helping Kenyans. There are a lot of projects that the president is engaged in at the moment that I think he should abandon. These projects of legacy projects, thinking about Nairobi metropolitans wanting to do projects around Nairobi, capital projects across the country. They are important, but for now, I think we need to be candid with the president and tell him he needs to slow down on those ones and refocus and rechannel our efforts towards helping the ordinary Kenyan come out of this pandemic.
Gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, you both sit in the Senate and the National National Assembly. You have the power to push for some of the things that you're talking about. I hope you will do that as you carry on with your duties. I know there have been special sittings and so forth, even though the bicameral parliament has been on a recess. But that's where we wrap up this conversation. Thank you for tuning in. Quite a civil one, I must say. It's not been as challenging as previous ones. I think the two gentlemen have found various points of synergy, which have raised questions with some of our viewers, but such is the state of our politics at this time. So thank you so much. We've had Honorable John Badi, ODM Chair, and of course the Minority Leader, and Kipchumba Murkomen, the Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet, and we wrap it up like that. On behalf of the whole team that's made this broadcast possible, thank you for tuning in. We could not have done the show without your viewership. Our sign language interpreter tonight has been Yula Zale. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. Have a good night, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.